Welcome back to Sold Before Sunrise. I'm your host, Betsy Cameron, president of the Ebby Halliday Companies, and I am really excited about today's conversation. We all know in real estate that leadership and focus can make or break a career, and today's guest has spent over 30 years helping people get both right. Mike Staver is an internationally respected leadership coach, speaker, and the author of Leadership Isn't for Cowards. He's worked with executives at companies like FedEx, Cisco, and Mayo Clinic, and he has a deep and long-standing connection to the real estate world. Some of you may actually remember Mike from when he presented to our company during the COVID era, where he first introduced many of us to the concept of high-gain activities. That idea stuck with a lot of us, and it's one of the things we're going to dig into today. And I have to say, at the end of last year, I had the opportunity to hear Mike speak at a gathering we were both at, and he said something that completely reframed how I was thinking about the year ahead. He talked about the difference between doing different things versus doing things differently, and I wanted to bring him on so you could hear it straight from him. Today, we're talking about the habits, mindset, and decisions that separate agents who stay busy from agents who actually build something. Mike, welcome to Sold Before Sunrise. Let's dive in.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Yes, fantastic. Well, tell us a little bit about your journey into how you became a leadership coach and really the focus on real estate, the real estate industry.
Yeah, so I did a lot of coaching and actually I was a therapist first. I went to college, wanted to be a pilot. Didn't work out. My dad was a dream killer, but we don't have to go into that.
Oh, dear.
And not bitter. And I ended up going to school, getting a degree in business, and then got a master's in psychology. And I had to do a internship. And so I went and did this internship at a hospital, and I got offered a job there and was doing counseling. And then I left that and started speaking and teaching. And one day I thought, you know what? I bet we could build an intersection between all that I knew clinically in business and could help people. This was before coaching was popular. Now everybody says they're a coach. And then as a result of that, I ended up speaking in Hartford, Connecticut, and met a person who said, have you ever worked with real estate? And I said, no. And they said, what's your background? And I said, psychology. And they said, well, it's pretty close. Perfect fit. And so I started speaking. And then in 2002 or 3, I thought, I'm going to open this coaching practice and see if it'll get traction. And it has.
Yeah. Major traction,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yes. So after 30 years working with high performers across all kinds of industries, what's the one thing that most consistently holds people back?
Terrible execution. I think the gap between intention and execution is the biggest problem. Whether you're a realtor, you're a leader, you own a landscaping company, it really doesn't matter. I think most of us wake up every day with good intentions. Most of us are smart, but often there's a gap between our intentions, our intelligence, and what we actually do. And so I'm not really impressed with people's intelligence, and I'm not really impressed with people's intentions. What I'm impressed with is, are you able to consistently narrow the gap between what you say you want to do and what you actually end up doing? And I think that's the biggest challenging gap.
What do you think is, execution, but what do you think is the thing that they could focus on or do?
Yeah, I think you said it. I think it's focus and discipline. So you have some people who are focused, you have some people who are disciplined. I tell people all the time, you have plenty of horsepower to do what you want to do. The horses just run in different directions. Mm-hmm. So what if you had a really clear, defensible strategy on the thing that you're going to do to slightly move the needle? I don't believe we should be working on closing the gap. I think we just need to narrow it a little, mm-hmm. and then a little more, and then a little more. That's how momentum's built.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Very good. How do you balance the coaching side of what you do with speaking and running a business?
Yeah.
We were just talking about this. Your day
is crazy.
It
really is crazy. Well, first of all, I surrendered a long time ago the need for balance. I tell people, and I tell your viewers, stop with the balance. What I talk about is integration. How do we take the demands and integrate those into an outcome that are going to produce the kind of results we want? So if I have a full day of coaching, which I do, well, even today, right? I'm here working with you and your team. I started out 2 coaching sessions, taught a coaching certification course here with you. Then we're going to work this afternoon with your team. I don't go, oh, how do I balance all that? I just say, how do I integrate that so that it's moving in the direction of what my purpose is and what my goals are. And so many people don't have clarity about what the outcome is that they want. So they're just doing a bunch of activities, playing whack-a-mole without clarity. So I think focus and discipline on the things that are going to move you forward helps you integrate those things better.
Yeah. So work-life balance isn't a term that
No.
you
Well, is it even
focus
reasonable?
on. Well, I don't know.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know.
I always hear people talking about, I
Yes.
need to find the work-life balance, but
There isn't
there,
any.
yes.
And people do that in my business all the time. You know, I say to people all the time, your life is not a motivational poster. It sounds really good, like resilience. Oh, that person's really resilient. Well, resilience sucks when you're being resilient, right? I mean, when you're in the middle of a fire and no one's like, I'm so resilient. So I'm really about saying, let's speak what the truth is. The truth is you've got a family, you've got kids, you've got demands. Many of your viewers are commission-only sales folks. So what are we going to do to integrate the things we need to do to have the life? I say we need to be better at our jobs, better at our lives, and then build the business we want.
Right, right. Okay. Let's shift to mindset and performance.
Yeah.
So you've built your philosophy around the idea of good intentions simply aren't enough. When you work with agents, where do you most often see the breakdown happen? Is it a clarity problem? We just talked about clarity, discipline problem. Where do you see?
The primary thing is clarity. I think most people think they're really clear and most don't, aren't that clear. So I think that's first. But I think the second thing is that we confuse busy with productive. We confuse, I mean, how many times have you been asked or somebody ask you, how are you doing? Go, oh, I'm really busy. But what if we started asking ourselves, how productive were you today? So I think people often don't focus on the things that make them the most productive. But in order to do that, you've got to define what productive looks like. Like, how do you measure by the end of the day whether you accomplish anything? For instance, speaking of counterintuitive, I don't believe in to-do lists. I believe in accomplishment lists, which means by the end of the day today, what am I going to accomplish? And if I'm clear about what I'm going to accomplish, and then I align my behaviors toward those accomplishments, I can measure it better.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Good. During COVID, you introduced many of us at the Ebby Halliday companies to the concept of high gain activity. I want to go kind of a little bit deeper into that.
Okay.
And for anyone who missed that, can you walk us through what that looks like and how does it work? And how does an agent actually identify what their high gain activity is? So that focus point that we were talking about.
So high gain activity is different than a goal. A high gain activity is different than a process. A high gain activity is an activity. So the first thing you have to identify is the activity itself. So if I say prospecting is my high gain activity, that is not an activity. That is a process. But what is it inside of that? So the question you ask yourself is this: what is the one thing that if I did it all day, every day, the one activity, if I did it all day, every day, would create the most profitable and productive outcome for my business? So again, just think of this question. If I only focused on one thing, the criteria has to be that one thing would create the most productive and profitable impact on the business. Now, what some people will do is they'll make it really big. They'll go like, I want to prospect, or I want to contact my buyers and sellers. And what I say is it needs to be even more narrow than that. So my high gain activity, for instance, is having one-to-one conversations with people who have a commitment to personal and professional development and have a budget to support it. See how narrow that is. So during the course of my day, I can measure the extent to which I'm engaged in high gain activity or low gain activity. And I think if most of us are honest, we're engaged in a lot of low gain activity.
And what would those low gain, I'm going to ask, what are the, when you're talking to high performers, what is that high gain activity that does move the needle that you see that they're choosing? And then what is the low gain activity that you see most commonly we get caught up in?
Yeah. So I think in the real estate business, the high gain activity that I think is the most under leveraged is one-to-one contact with people and maintaining those relationships. The statistics are horrific. Over 80% of buyers and sellers in America say they'd use the same agent again, and less than 20% ever do. That's terrible. So I think if I were selling real estate today, I would spend the significant majority of my time either belly to belly, face to face, mouth to ear on a phone, contacting people who had a high probability of wanting to engage me in my services. Low gain activities are all the non-revenue producing things that make us feel busy all day. I walk around real estate offices often and I'll say, so tell me what you're working on. Tell me what you're doing. Almost never do they say, I am completely dialed into revenue producing, client connecting activity. Very, very seldom. And I think that differentiates, that's the gap between a high performer, mid-level, or low performer is, are they laser focused on the thing that's going to impact their business the most?
And I think you and I have talked about this before. Sometimes it's easier to find yourself, in the weeds of things than it is to really focus on what's going to move the needle.
Yeah.
Because that's not a comfortable,
it's terrible,
area.
And I always laugh when people say, well, I'm ramping up. You're not a freeway. You're not ramping up, right? What did Yoda say? You either do or you do not. There is no try. And I say to people, success doesn't come because we try. Success comes because we focus on the right things at the right time for the right reason. And in a sales job, the right things at the right time for the right reason should have a direct correlation to relationship building and revenue production. And if they don't, I think they're low gain activities.
Yeah. Okay, good. So I have to give you full credit for this one.
Hallelujah. Finally.
At the end of last year, I was with you and a group of people, and you talked about doing different things versus doing things differently. And honestly, it became the theme that I've built my entire year around.
Good.
So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
But can you unpack that distinction for our listeners?
Yeah. A lot of people just put different paint on the barn, and they think they built a new barn. And I'm saying maybe we don't need a barn at all. Like, what really distinguishes you in the marketplace? I was a part of a focus group. I sat behind two-way mirrors and watched a bunch of buyers and sellers, and they put a bunch of real estate signs in the room that didn't have the name of the brand. And nobody in the focus group could tell us who it was that belonged to those signs. And why? Because in a black and white, largely gray marketplace with as many agents and companies, how are you the colorful dot? And you're the colorful dot because you say, I'm going to do something nobody else is doing. Or at least I'm going to try something nobody else is doing. And I'm going to do it in such a way that it distinguishes me. So if I do something differently, that's good. Mm-hmm. That's better than this is the way we wash our clothes. Mm-hmm. But what if instead of putting new paint on the barn, we figured out a different thing to do that would have the same functionality as a barn would, to use a rough analogy. And so when I think of agents who do different things, I've got a friend and colleague, top producer, who does open houses very differently, but they decided, you know what? I'm going to do open houses, not just differently, but I'm going to go at open houses and do it completely like nobody else is doing it. And I think that's the distinction between doing different things. Means I'm going to do this in a way that distinguishes me from my competition.
Yeah, instead of just following right along.
Right. Instead of going down the street and doing the same thing. And in real estate, and in a lot of industries I work in, 85% of my business is in real estate, we get together with like-minded people and we swap stories, but we're really just lather, rinsing, and repeating. So what if we just did something crazy? And that's why I think your viewers ought to be thinking about, are you going to conferences that aren't real estate centric? Are you studying when you go into a hotel or when you go into a car dealership or wherever you go? Are you looking at, well, that's interesting. We don't do that. I could do that. And that's really different. Because we want people not to furrow their brows when they think of us. We want them to raise their brows and go, well, that's really, really interesting.
Like, what are you doing to go above and beyond? Or to your point, doing something different as opposed to what?
Doing it,
Doing it the same old way, right?
Or doing it a new old way, but it's still basically wrapped in the same wrapping.
Right. Okay. We invest heavily in training and coaching here at the Ebby Halliday companies, but even with all of that, self-leadership is still one of the hardest things to teach. So from your perspective, where does that gap show up most in agents, and what does it cost them when it goes unaddressed?
Well, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars in GCI. It's, listing after listing after listing. that gets lost when there's not self-leadership. And the gap, I think was your question, is accountability. This is a lonely business. I mean, you can show up to an office and go to a sales meeting and be hanging out with your friends, but ultimately we're in that car on a Saturday showing people around, showing them houses, figuring it out. And so who is on your team? And all of us need somebody on our team, whether it's a coach. I say at the very least, every realtor in America should have a really good, rigorous accountability partner who is going to speak the truth in love to them, is going to say, you know, Betsy, I know that's what your intentions are, but when I hear you talk about your day, I don't hear you saying that the things you're doing are going to get you there, right? And so I think having the courage to engage with a person that's going to speak the truth in love, speak the truth in kindness to you, and say, I don't think those two things are going to match. Because if you don't have that, you can get self-deluded, right? I mean, you can convince yourself that what you're doing is really good or really helping, and then you're not getting the result, but nobody's going, hello, that's not going to work.
Right.
I think that's the big piece. It's hard to humble ourselves enough to go to somebody and say, hey, would you join me on this journey? And I'm going to submit myself to your critique or evaluation. It's tough, but it's important.
Yeah. Tell me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear, right?
Exactly.
That happens a lot. So what does clarity and courage actually look like in a very specific moment? Say an agent on a Tuesday morning staring at a blank calendar, knowing they need to prospect, but dreading every second of it.
Yeah.
What?
I was speaking somewhere and I was doing a book signing. And I don't really like book signings. I'm shocked anybody read my book. In fact, it's probably just my mom. But I'm shocked that people would read my book. So I'm doing this book signing. It's always at a high top. And I have Sharpies and a stack of books, and people line up, both of them. And I sign the book and I write their name in it. And this young man, turns out he's about 28, walks up and he says, sir, which made me a little uncomfortable. Sir, can I share something with you about courage? Well, turns out he was a drill sergeant in the United States Marine Corps. And he said, you wrote a book on courage. And he said, can I tell you about courage? And I said, yeah. And he said, in the Marine Corps, we don't teach people not to be afraid. He said, some people think courage is the absence of fear. Listen to this definition. This is so powerful. He said, courage is pursuing the mission regardless of your emotional state. Isn't that great?
That's so good.
Isn't that good?
Yes.
So when I wake up in the morning, I don't want to make the call. I don't want to do the prospecting. I don't want to send the personal notes.
Right.
But courage is moving forward in spite of our emotional condition. It's not the absence of fear. It's not I'm waiting until I feel more comfortable. You're never going to feel comfortable. So that's first. Courage, I use an acronym, continuing onward under rigorous and grinding experiences is what I used for courage.
Say that again. Say that again. Yes.
Continuing onward under rigorous and grinding experiences.
Hey.
That's what courage is, right? So the headwinds are blowing, the hail is coming down, but there's a flag on the hill. I need to go get that flag. And so that's what courage is. What it looks like on Monday morning is this, and I would encourage your viewers to do something we call in our company the first 60, that they spend the first 60 minutes of every morning, get up, have your coffee, get ready, whatever. But you don't look at your email, you don't do anything until you just do a few things that have a potential or probability of helping you generate revenue or build momentum. So if you don't want to pick up the phone and call, don't pick up the phone and call. Write some thank you notes, send some emails, send some texts. You send me an email, much harder to get me. You send me a text, much easier to get me. Do the little things well and consistently, and those lead to the bigger things. I always get worried, particularly in sales jobs, when people say, you know what, we're just going to all make cold calls for an hour and a half. I'm going to call my relatives, my friend. I don't want to do it. But if you allow me to do what I'm good at, which is writing notes or sending emails or sending texts or providing value, if your viewers can't do anything else when they're staring at the screen, remember this. Nobody cares about how great you are until you can provide value to other people. You know, we say a lot, you need to sell your value. You need to preach your value. No, you don't. If you provide value, if I provide value to you, you're going to go, wow, that person's really adding value. And that's going to attract you to more of what I'm doing. if I try to, every salesperson out there is trying to convince people. Don't convince, provide. And the more value I can provide, the more I can share with you out of the abundance of my knowledge and skill without any expectation or that's how I survived COVID. I mean, that's how we got through COVID, was adding value.
Okay, so speaking of the first 60 minutes, what is your first 60 minutes of your day?
Generally heavy amounts of medication. No. So every morning I get up, I do quiet time, I do my gratitudes, and then I either watch a video or I listen to music, something that gets me centered and grounded for the day. Then the second thing that I do in the morning is I set intention for the day. I do accomplishment lists, not to-do lists, as I mentioned. Today, my accomplishment list was really direct. Try to have positive impact on the lives of at least 5 people, have a revenue positive impact on the company, and have a positive impact on my mental, physical, or emotional well-being. Then the first 60 starts with, what people have I not been in touch with that I can reach out to via text or note just to reconnect because I miss them. Some mornings I play phone roulette. I go to my contacts and I just spin the contacts and then I stop it. And wherever it stops, unless it's an ex, I either call them or send them an email or something. I don't feel like I gotta like bear it out and pick up the phone and like suffer through it. I feel like if I can, like this morning when I got up, I sent 4 text messages and an email with an attachment of a checklist I have on what to do when you don't know what to do. Somebody texts me back, "Oh, I haven't heard from you in a while. Let's connect." Perfect. That's all you can ask for.
I like it. I like it. So for an agent who feels like they're working hard but not moving forward, where do you tell them to start? Like they're doing all the things. They're doing all the things and they're not seeing any headway.
Well, the first thing I'm going to say is, are you really doing all the things? Are you really?
Okay.
I mean, just between us, are you really? That's the first question I'm going to ask. Number 2, I'm going to ask you to go to your manager, your coach, your accountability partner, and show them the things that you're doing and say, am I doing this in a way? So, it's one way, it's one thing to say, I'm going to do this. But if I'm not doing it for the right reason at the right time with the right people, then that's just a waste of time. So I think you've got to do a fearless inventory. I think you've got to say, if I say I'm doing the right things, first thing I ask is, am I though? Second thing, do an inventory of, if I am doing those things and I'm not getting enough traction, I need to go to somebody and go, here's what I'm doing. What am I missing? Another set of eyes and perspective always helps. Then the third thing is, don't grow weary in the process of doing good. Most of us quit too soon. I have a philosophy. It's called 1 mile further, 5 minutes longer. And it was actually in Texas where this happened. I was looking for a location. This was years ago. And I pulled into a gas station and I said, I'm not one of those guys that doesn't ask for directions. And I asked the guy behind the counter, "Hey, I'm looking for so-and-so." He goes, "Yeah, it's just another mile down the road. You just stopped too soon." And I went, that'll preach, right? Stop too soon. So I drove another mile and sure enough, there it was. There are times in conflict, or there are times when we grow weary, as we should. But if we just go 1 mile further, take 5 minutes longer, there's a breakthrough right around the corner. I think in my most difficult moments in my career, when I just remembered 5 minutes more, 1 mile further, one more step, just take the next one, something's going to break. Success is not magic. If you do the right things for the right reason at the right time, you're going to achieve it. But what we do is lull ourselves to sleep often in a sense that we're doing the things, but we really need to be more rigorous in our approach to it.
Right. Okay, great. I'm going to do a round of rapid fire questions. You ready?
I'm ready.
I don't know. This is a hard one.
Is that one of them? I don't know.
No,
go ahead.
Not yet. First one.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Which matters more, discipline or motivation?
Discipline.
Okay. Morning routine or evening prep?
Oh, morning routine for sure.
I think so for sure too, right?
Yeah. I mean, who really wants to prep at night? You know what I mean? Plus it sounds like something you do at your face, or I don't know.
I'm exhausted by the time the nighttime rolls around.
I can barely prep for bed, much less the next day.
Okay, one habit that changed everything for you.
One habit that changed everything for me. I would say being rigorous or artful in my choice of words. I think that was such a big piece, and it's a habit I have. Flossing's probably the big one, but being rigorous in my choice of words is a habit that I'm very intentional with my words.
I like that.
Yeah,
That's good.
yeah.
Words
Matter,
matter,
to coin a phrase.
right? Other than your own book, best book you've recommended most?
The Road Less Traveled by M. Scott Peck changed my life. I was in my 20s. I was really successful in business, unfortunately, and I was a complete jerk. If you looked up jerk in the dictionary, my personal life was a disaster. I was an angry young man. I hadn't really, I was driving a fancy car. I had a corner office. I was a chief operating officer of a company by the time I was 20, whatever it was, and I was miserable, And my mom took me out to lunch one day, and she said, "You got more problems than a math book, boy." And she says, "You need counseling." And I'm like, I'm not going to go talk about my problems. Anyway, it was free, and free is good. So I went, and there was a book on his coffee table. It was The Road Less Traveled by M. Scott Peck. He said, "Read this book." And I went home, and I'm like, whatever, dude. But I decided to read it, and I read it. I stayed up almost all night and read it. And to this day, I still have that original copy with the notes, and I read it every year, at least twice a year. And it so altered my perspective on the world. The first 3 words of that book are life is difficult. And then the paragraph goes on to say the acceptance of life's difficulties begins to transcend its difficulties and gives you freedom to have a better life. I could have quit there, but it was so powerful. Everybody that I talked to, that one and Transitions by William Bridges. Bill, before he passed, he and I did a made for cable show years ago. It's a great book on change and what happens in the change process, particularly if you're in a transition in your life or business. It's really good.
A friend of mine just sent me that book. It's on my desk.
Great
Yeah.
book.
Okay. One thing agents should stop doing immediately.
Talking about the market.
All the noise.
Just stop talking about the market. Get off of social media. That's more than one thing. Stop talking about the market. Listen, your brain can't handle all the noise that's going on in the world right now. And focus, just remember this, and your team has heard me say this 1,000 times. Focus is not what we say yes to. Focus is what we say no to. Don't watch the news. You can't do anything about it. Don't bury yourself in social media. It isn't going to help. I mean, post the pictures of your kids, your grandkids, your dog, and then move along. When I stopped the news and periodicals, I stopped in 2014 and have not watched a news show, read a newspaper, read a news magazine, or read any article in that many years. And I still know what's going on in the world because there's so much noise. So you might remember this from the COVID webinars. I used to say this: whatever your eyes see and your ears hear is what your brain uses for nourishment. Are you nourishing your brain with the things that it needs to serve you best? Your brain's like a spoiled preschooler. It's going to run all over town with you. If you don't exercise some control of that, it's very difficult to achieve results.
Yeah. And I think we talk a lot about control the controllables.
That's right.
We can't control interest rates. We can't control what's going on, war.
And dwelling on it just makes your brain think you're in a crisis that you're not in.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so that's one thing they should stop.
Yeah.
What is one thing they should start?
They should start asking themselves really tough questions. They should ask questions like, if I was going to be insanely successful today, what would I need to do right now to ensure that outcome? If I needed to make $100,000 in the next 90 days, what would I do? And then go get about doing it. It is the gap between the doers and the talkers where all the damage happens. So let's stop talking about it. Let's do some stuff.
Do it, right? All right. Accountability. I already know the answer to this one, but I'll go ahead and put it out there. Accountability partner or solo discipline?
Accountability partner for sure. As long as they're not a person that's going to enable you and pat you on the head. Oh, you're doing fine. Just hang in there, little buddy. My brother and I were accountability partners for years, and we're very friendly. We're very close. But man, if he missed the mark, dude, you promised. You made a commitment. Are you a man of your commitments or you're not? And he would say the same to me. And that 5 years, I accomplished amazing things.
Yeah, great. Okay, what does leadership mean in 2026?
Influence. Leadership has nothing to do with power, nothing to do with direct reports. It just has to do with your willingness to be a person of influence with your clients, with the people that you care about. It means, and then the second thing it means is modeling what you want the world to look like, right? If you don't want the world to be hostile and bitter and angry, and maybe you do, then model that. But if that's what you model,
We hope not.
well, I hope not. But it seems like some people do some days.
Yes.
But I say, be the model. Like that's what leadership is, and I think that's what it meant. That's what matters most.
Great. What's the one thing you want every agent listening to walk away and actually do?
I want them to do one thing as soon as they stop watching this podcast that will make a difference in their day, either mentally or financially or spiritually. Something that will make a difference. I don't care if it's go for a walk around the building. I don't care if it's send a note. I want them to do something. And then after that, do one more thing. Don't think the little things don't add up.
Because they do.
They always do.
Do the one thing.
That's right.
Thank you, Mike, for
Yeah,
being
thanks
here.
for having me. It was fun.
Appreciate
That was
it
quick.
very
It was
much.
fun. Yeah.
I know. We could keep going,
Yeah,
right?
we could.
continue going. Well,
Yeah.
this has been such a great conversation. Thank you for taking the time to share your perspective and for giving us a real, honest look at what it actually takes to lead yourself and your business at a higher level. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to like and subscribe and share it with someone in your office or on your team who would benefit from it as well. You can find Mike at mikestaver.com. I'd highly recommend checking out his Mondays with Mike content. And if you haven't already picked up Leadership Isn't for Cowards, go get it. Links are in the show notes. Thanks for being with us on Soul Before Sunrise, and we will see you next time.